All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to welcome Kelly Dormer here to talk about the new and improved Bulletin-In-Effect. So I'm excited to learn some information and share some information with you all.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Dormer. I'm the Director of Academic Programs. I work in the Provost's office. Um, and so I'm excited to talk to you guys a little bit about Bulletin and Effect. So I am gonna I'm gonna share the web page here. Okay. So you're probably all familiar with the testing waivers and substitutions page that has the Gen Ed petition on it. So we added in, as I scroll down here, right under the Gen Ed petition, information about the Bulletin-In-Effect petition. So the current Bulletin-In-Effect policy says that students who are undergrads can choose to graduate under the degree requirements in the bulletin at the time of their graduation or any of the bulletins in the previous 7 years, assuming they were registered during that time. Um, there are cases, and they can work that out with all of you as advisors, with the department, and you can make those adjustments with the student on their own. And then if there are requests to have students graduate under bulletins older than 7 years, we've reinstated a university-wide bulletin-in-effect committee. So that committee consists of some advisors across kind of all of our large schools and colleges. I don't think that we have every school and college currently represented. I don't know that we have anyone from nursing specifically, but if one of these was to come up that impacted a college that wasn't represented on the committee, we would certainly be sure to consult with them. But the role of the committee is to review these requests that come in to have students graduate off of an older bulletin, and then the committee will make recommendations to the provost office, specifically Darren, about what should be done in that case. Um, there's been a lot that have kind of come through ad hoc over the past year or two, which is what prompted us to kind of reinstate this committee. I think if you've been here a long time, maybe you're familiar with how there used to be a Bulletin and Effect committee out of the UAC before a lot of advising was moved into the individual departments. So our hope is that this will help things be a little more straightforward and give us a chance to look at each student individually and review their case and see what kind of adjustments we can make. It's a little bit hard to have, there's not really black and white, like if you took this, we're automatically going to do all of these things just because everyone's case and situation and what they've taken and what they need is so individualized. Having this working group of advisors, reviewing these cases and making recommendations, I think will be kind of our clearest path to make sure that everyone's getting the holistic review that they deserve. Some of the things that have come through in the past also, they're requesting bulletin in effect, but when we look at it, we can just sort of do a simple gen ed waiver, or we can make some adjustments around things they've already taken to have them graduate on a more current bulletin. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to look at each case and also maybe think creatively about how we can get the student to degree completion. So we made a form if you have requests that you want to submit. So I will click on that. It really looks a lot like the Gen Ed form. So this is also something, again, like the Gen Ed form, that advisors are to complete the form for the student. So we won't take these from students individually. They need to be coming from an advisor or, a faculty member, someone in the department who has reviewed that student situation and thought through kind of what the options were. So there are some questions on here about does the student intend to attend full-time or part-time? Do they have financial holds? When might they graduate? What's sort of the estimate about when they might complete their degree? And the reason that we ask these questions is one of the concerns that has come up is if someone's returning, they haven't been here in a long time, and then they still have a lot of time to go, We don't necessarily want to grant bulletin in effect that someone is going to take another 5 years to graduate, just because so many things can change with requirements, with what's appropriate, kind of with the passage of time. We might have different perspectives on how we might adjust things or what those requirements are. So it's just information to kind of help the committee think a little more deeply about how to help each individual student get to success in the best way. So then you'll just fill out what their current catalog term is and what it is that you're requesting that they be moved to. And then there's a space in here for just kind of background story about the situation and other things that we might consider. And then similar to the gen ed waiver, we would go in here and say if it was waived, yes or no. Um, there's also an approved denied button, and then that will get sent back. The whoever submitted it will get a notification via email that that was completed, so that you'll have that record to put in stars or send to DegreeWorks if you need kind of that catalog adjusted. Are there any questions specifically about the form?
Kelly, it's Kate. Hi.
Hi.
So the yes, no, and waived, that's for the advisor to indicate. So you want to know if they would suggest waiving it, like kind of like the gen ed, that you want their input on whether or not it should be waived. Or is that for you guys to do?
So that would be, now that I'm looking at it, I feel like this doesn't make sense. So maybe we need to
Oh.
edit. We need to make it not required. I think my assumption would be that if the advisor's filling this out, that that's something that you're in support of. Maybe
Sure,
we
sure,
need to
sure.
make that more explicit if you think maybe it just needs to say like advisor supports, yes or no, and then we can have the button say approved or denied from
Like
the
for
provost office side.
by committee, yeah, committee
Yeah.
completes that part. Okay.
Okay, I'll make those adjustments. So the other thing that is different about this, like with the gen ed waiver, for example, when you submit that, those are currently being reviewed by Dan Cashin. He's our gen ed faculty coordinator. And so he's reviewing this. He does do consultation for things that are a little trickier with the department or Darren or other colleagues. But for the most part, he's reviewing and approving those. A lot of those are more straightforward. With these, we're going to get them and disseminate them to the committee to look at, weigh in, and review. So it is going to be a little more time. I would anticipate that we would give the committee a week or two to review and weigh in and have some discussion about thoughts about this. If they're straightforward, obviously it'll be a little easier. A lot of these that have come through have been a little more complex, and we've had to kind of dig into DegreeWorks, look at the history, see what's going on. So just to be aware that there is going to be a little bit more of a lag so that we have time for that committee to review.
Kelly, I'm sorry. I couldn't find the hand raising icon.
Oh, that's
Can I
okay.
ask a question? It's
Yeah,
Royanne.
sure.
Um, you know, I'm not trying to sound contentious or anything. This is really a real question. So to me, it seems like this is taking up a lot of people's time from at both your level and also the college levels, and why isn't it that the advisor could just request this directly to have the student on a previous bulletin? I mean, why the oversight?
Like, why are we having a committee?
Yeah, I mean, why the oversight? Like if an advisor, I mean, advisors should be, they're pretty well trained and they're pretty smart. It seems to me like, the advisor could just, work with the student and make that decision.
So currently, I mean, the policy is that students have to graduate within 7 years. So if we're looking to waive that policy, then that's something that has to get approved through the provost's office. The reason for the committee is what we're finding is that there's a lot of students who are coming from, they're coming back, they've been gone a while, maybe there's been major changes. So there's just different colleges involved. And I think the thought was that by having a group of advisors that represent different schools and colleges, we're able to get kind of more of a holistic look at how things have occurred and where we might better support students. So the intention really is just to have some additional eyes to weigh in on those cases that are maybe a little more complicated.
Okay. I was just curious because it seems to me like, with all the issues that we have with personnel right now, it just seemed like a little bit of, I'm not saying overreach or anything like that. I'm looking at resources, people's time and resources that way. It seemed, like this might be something that would be handled more at the local level. But, I'm not, it's okay. It's a policy. I get it. I just, I just usually question when we develop new committees to, do oversight like this, because, people's time is so stretched. And this is something that we're hearing a lot about. But I just wanted to put that out there, and wondering why it was something that was so necessary.
Well, I think I would also clarify, like, we aren't getting inundated with these. I mean, there's been a select few, and I also think just I saw Stephanie's comment in the chat, so I think that's a good example. So CFPCA, for example, has put forward a number of Bulletin-In-Effect requests where, like, the department found courses that met the department requirements. Like, really what was remaining was maybe an internship or some sort of departmental level course. So the decision to, move classes or waive those requirements is done at the college and department level. So what the request coming forward is really just to approve the extension of the 7-year policy or the 7-year bulletin to let people graduate off an older bulletin. And I mean, those are, again, pretty straightforward. Like, if they've already had done the gen ed from the time when they were here, they just had some outstanding degree requirements that the college was happy to waive or move things around or felt that they had satisfied since they'd been out. And so then we're really just kind of stamping that it's okay to do that outside of the 7 years. So it's not trying to, like, override what the college or department is doing.
Okay, I was just curious because what I do in these cases myself is I just approve substitutions, on a newer program.
Mhm.
And it seems to be an easier way to do it, but then maybe I don't have as complicated of curricula as some other people.
Mhm.
So it just seemed like a lot of extra work for others.
Susie.
Yeah, if I can, I think that the substitutions, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but I don't feel like this is to change your process. It's just to make a process that may be easier and more consistent. So if you're already making substitutions for students, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that if there's not consistency across the board, then coming to this committee might help it be more consistent. So for example, there's some departments where, like, some people are very liberal, like under the same college or the same department, some people are very liberal in giving Bulletin-In-Effect, and a different advisor may be like, absolutely not, I'm not doing it, and not changing the bulletin. And so it differs based on, like, which advisor the student happens to be under. And so this helps it to be a little bit more consistent, and give a process to that consistency.
Right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I also had a question.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So my question was, do the approvals have a time limit? You mentioned not wanting the students to be graduating 5 years out or something like that. Is there a time limit to the approvals? Will we be, inputting a time limit for each student individually? Is there anything like that?
So currently we don't have a firm time limit. I think that was kind of where we're asking these questions and maybe looking at that individually. but I'm open to feedback about that because we could always work at updating the Bulletin-In-Effect policy, which is, again, the current Bulletin-In-Effect policy is posted on the testing substitutions webpage. So, if we feel like we need to say like these decisions are only good for 3 semesters or something like that, whatever it might be, like we're open to discussing that broadly. And I think that that's also something that, the committee might dig in a little more to and then bring more broadly for feedback from all of you as well. Margaret.
Hi. So is this just for returning students that have been gone for more than 7 years? Or is it for students that haven't finished, like they started in 2018 and still aren't finished yet, so they have to go back and see if they can? I guess I'm just confused what
So yeah,
this is.
it could yeah, I mean it would have to be more than 7 years because they have to be registered at the time. But yeah, I mean if they're still here and they've been working on it, then it could be from 2018 if that was the request you're making. Yeah.
But but it's supposed to be like to benefit, so people aren't gonna, so if someone from 2018 wants to graduate and finishing requirements in winter, theirs wouldn't get approved because it's older than 7 years.
I think I misunderstood your question. Sorry, can you repeat it?
I think that I think that the question is like if the students under the current Bulletin-In-Effect committee, or the current Bulletin-In-Effect, they can still graduate. If they're outside of the current Bulletin-In-Effect, that's when they would come to the committee.
Yeah.
So if they're under the 7 years in the current Bulletin-In-Effect, they can still graduate. But if they're outside of that 7 years, then they would need to, if you guys don't have a process where you can submit other things, would come to the committee.
So if sorry, again, I want to clarify, I think what Margaret was saying, because I was wondering the same thing. I was a little bit, that's why I was concerned in the first place. So we have some people who are continuing students who started in fall 18. They're continuing students. They haven't had, maybe they haven't had a gap, or maybe they've had a gap of 1 year, but they're still continuing students. Maybe they came back in 2020, right? And so they've been continuing students. So when they go to graduate, they're still under the fall 18 rubric. They're not going to have to go back and change their bulletin term. They can still graduate on the fall 18 curriculum, correct? Sorry, Kelly.
If they're still on that bulletin, then they can move forward. Yes, they can move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of confusing too, because like, I mean, students, there are part-time students, and if they start like for their first time, it's going to take them like 20 semesters, so that's like 10 years to like finish, so you're saying it's okay for them to finish in 10 years, they don't have to do a separate process, or it's not okay after 7 years they need to update their bulletin? I'm just confused what it means. I think it makes sense maybe for returning students. They've been gone and haven't been enrolled for 7+ years. And then they have to reevaluate, things change, whatever. But then if they're following what DegreeWorks says for them to follow, that's how we do our degree audits, is based on their catalog term in DegreeWorks, not like the updated. Like, I'm not gonna hold students that started in fall 2018 and that's their catalog term, bulletin term, to the new curriculum in fall 2025.
Melissa,
Right.
are you able to hop on for a second? I thought that you were here somewhere. When does it lock?
Yes, I'm here.
When does it lock at like where they can't change it in DegreeWorks?
Where they can't change the bulletin year, the catalog
Yeah.
year. I don't believe it locks it out. I mean, so when we check with the provost office is when we see a student who's like returning and it's been that 7-year gap,
Mm-hmm.
And so we would then, communicate with the office of the provost and, you know, basically let the advisor know, like, you need to do this. Well, I know previously there wasn't the form, so we would do it via email, like, let's email the office of the provost because we need to make sure that we're in the bulletin in effect. So I believe what I'm understanding, Margaret and some of the other advisors that have said, like, because she's right, if a student is part-time, there's no way they're gonna graduate within that 7-year mark. So if anything, so nothing's gonna change on their degree audit. They're just gonna follow that unless the student chooses or, works with the advisor and they change their catalog year for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so I didn't think it was like locking them out. Like if they've continued, they're still on the bulletin that they've been continuing on.
Correct.
Yeah, this would be more for people that have been gone and are returning.
Mm-hmm.
Copy. Got it. Okay. So that makes sense. I was like, oh no, the students are like part-time.
Yeah, I think Kelly and team would probably be way overwhelmed if.
Yeah, I don't want to review all of your things when they turn to 7 years. And the other thing too is like this
compliance. So I'm just kidding.
This can't also like, we can't, if something changes like in education, right? Like they have there's accreditation requirements, state requirements for teachers. I'm sure lots of degrees have that. Like we can't override what those outside standards and requirements are. So like it can't be like, I want to be a nurse, but I just don't want to do all this new stuff they require nurses of. I mean, like obviously still those accreditation, licensing requirements for degrees are going to supersede what we're talking about. Which is another reason why we have the committee is for where there are those areas of nuance that we're able to get that feedback more easily, more readily, and make sure that we're making the best decision holistically. Yes, Kate.
Am I muted? No. So I don't want to add more confusion. So when we were doing it originally under Howard, we had a little committee because at that time we didn't have the newer gen eds. We had the old gen eds that were in place from 1987 on. So the returning students we got were like pre-gen ed. And so the committee's whole focus was taking these pre-gen ed transcripts with, departments we didn't even have anymore and like figuring out how could these meet gen eds? Because the rule was you had to pull them up into the current bulletin, the current gen ed. It was really a gen ed issue at the time. It wasn't a major requirement. Like those could be waived in the department. Those could be substituted, kind of like some of the advisors are saying. That was always understood. But it was how do we help these old classes fit into our current gen ed? Because we have to pull these students up into the current gen ed. And at the time it was the 87 to 2018 gen ed. So it seems like it's always been a returning student issue. And it was always that you had to pull the student up into the current requirements, but this just gives you current requirements and 7 bulletins back. It gives you a little bit of ways to like see what the best bulletin would be for that returning student. And you're looking at what they've taken, where could they graduate the fastest, easiest, so it was really about taking what they've had and like, yes, you had to pull them up, but you didn't have to pull them up to the most current. You could pull them up to the current or 7 bulletins back. And so I don't know if that helps, but it was always about returning students. And now we've got 2 gen eds to really look at, right? Plus now minors and stuff like that. So it was always a gen ed issue and it was always a returning student issue.
I see somebody raise their hand, but I can't see who it is.
Stephanie.
Oh, hi, Stephanie.
Yeah, I have a student that's returning and he's just missing our third foreign language class, but he's on like like I don't know, like early 2000s bulletin, I think, or something. And it's so like would I have to submit this, I guess like having to submit the petition after like our college and the department's already like, yeah, that's cool, do that. Like you know what like I guess so do I still have to submit a petition even though it's already been approved or like how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, if they're finished with their requirements and the college has approved those, then that would go forward. I think that if you submitted that and then the registrar's office, like Melissa was saying, was like, we have to go ask the provost office, we could come back and do this form really quick, but you wouldn't need to start with this if they've completed the gen ed and all of that.
Because I guess that then this needs to be more of like a training for the degree certifier people because they probably wouldn't be coming back to me because in class we don't certify degrees, they'd be going to RUMA and it just sounds very I just don't want a student to get screwed over and like not graduate because they didn't have a bulletin in effect form submitted. You know what I mean?
I think I'm lost about why that would you worry that would happen because the intention of this is to help students graduate. It's to take those complicated cases, to understand, to be able to move people and find the best situation to get them to completion.
Well, I guess is the registrar's office then like screening bulletin like what bulletin students are graduating under and then like investigating them, you know what I mean? Or they just look on DegreeWorks, it says 100% and they're like, okay, cool, like let's graduate this person.
So we don't screen the catalog terms because the departments are actually the ones who are looking if the student is eligible to receive, you know, if all the degree requirements are complete, if they're eligible. And then when it gets to the registration manager, Dave, because he's the one who does all of the ordering of the diplomas, and he has a whole process of like when the departments come back and say yes, you know, then he just, what the registrar office is doing is double checking the GPA meets degree completion requirements. And so he looks in Banner, he inputs that, and then he's awarding the degree at that point and ordering the diplomas. So the registrar's office is not the ones who actually do the certification piece of the degree completion.
Okay, so this is more so just like if there's an issue that hasn't been approved, then we would do the petition stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
So maybe I'll work on a paragraph that maybe clarifies that can go on the website.
I will say that the actual Bulletin-In-Effect, like under the academic catalog degree requirement, is a little bit more clear. I can put that in the chat. I sent it to you, Kelly. I wasn't sure if
Okay.
you wanted it, but I can put it in the chat.
And I just do want to add that, like, because degree audit does get emails that say like, oh, could you please change the student to this catalog year? If we see that it is pre-fall 2018 and it has been a minute, then our response should be, because it has always been, that because of the Bulletin-In-Effect graduation policy, we cannot change the catalog term, and please reach out. And then now knowing that this form is up and live, we will go ahead, because before we would just let them know to fill out the gen ed form, because Kelly already knows that, you know, you guys would do that and then move it to the committee. But now that this form is live, we'll go ahead and put that messaging in.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm also going to add to the website who's on our committee, so that'll get posted up there as well. We just got this form live, so I was trying to get it up before this. So I'll add some clarifying information and put up the committee members as well, but I'm always happy to talk more about this or answer questions, or, you know, if when you submit this or when you submit a gen ed waiver, like there's no notification about it. So if it is urgent, like you can let us know. Feel free to send me a Teams message and sort of prod that so we can move it along. I mean, I know Dan checks, I check like very regularly, but just so you're aware that if it is urgent, I'm happy to get it moving quicker if you want to reach out. And hopefully this will ultimately be helpful. And certainly, if you have other feedback that you think of later, don't hesitate to share it. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.